Welcome to the Nomadic Closer Podcast, where the world is your office. We're here to help salespeople and entrepreneurs level up, break free from the 9-to-5, and live the location-free lifestyle. Each week, join us for real-life experiences from the pros, practical tips, and game-changing insights on how to succeed in sales, business, and life. This is the Nomadic Closer Podcast.
For everyone watching, just wanted to introduce Mr. JD Daly. Absolutely savage at what he does. This is probably our first time actually speaking face to face, mate. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for actually coming on with us. It's a real pleasure, man. I've seen all the stuff that you're doing online, kind of all the closers that you're helping and the sort of impact you're making in the space. So yeah, really, really grateful for you being here, buddy. In terms of the conversation, super relaxed. I'd love to kind of learn a bit more about you, your experiences in the space, kind of ask a few questions about various different pieces that I'm sure people will get some golden nuggets out of. But before we get rocking and rolling, mate, if you want to introduce yourself, sort of tell people a little bit about you, that'd be grand.
Yes, I am JD Daly, as you mentioned. I'm the founder of Undeniable Closer, creator and head mentor at Undeniable Closer Mastermind. So my focus is more on success in the overall career. So what are the elements that people need to be able to be successful in this industry? Not just good at sales, not just get a job, but full success, whatever that means to each individual.
Well, tell me a bit more about that, man. Because a lot of people on sales calls with me, they'll say, I just want to create legacy, or I want to have financial freedom. I want success. And it's one of those things that for one person, it means something. And then for someone else, it's completely different. Success to some is having $1 million in the bank account. For others, is having $1 billion. For some, it's just being fulfilled in life. So I guess when you say you kind of help people be truly successful, how do you mean specifically?
Yeah, it's a great point, because I think so often people are sold on, making more money. And that's a big aspect for a lot of people, and that's important. But when you start getting kind of in beneath those things, you start to realize that, it's not all about money. Some people, it's more, I want to make a certain amount of money and I want to add time. I want to have time with my family. I want to have freedom. I want to travel. Right? So for me, success is knowing that you can get what you want out of life, that you're living in alignment with your values, with prioritizing what's important to you, and that you can live out your vision, that your vision and your dream can become a reality. That for me, whatever that is for each individual, that's not my choice. I know on sales calls, sometimes they teach you got to expand their goals. If they say they want to make 5K, is that it? I don't care about that. If 5K is your dream, let's make 5K. And let's figure out what that next thing is, because most people, when they get to the destination, I know for myself, I've always been let down by accomplishment. And that sounds kind of weird, but I always thought it would be the next thing, the destination, that would be it. I would feel so fulfilled and my life would change. And then I get there and I'm like, it's not what I thought it would be. Yeah. The one thing I've never been let down by in life is progress. The ability to improve and get better each day, that always feels good. And so it's just about being able to get in that pursuit of happiness and that pursuit of making your vision a reality.
I got to say, man, that resonates with me a lot as well. And it's kind of interesting. A lot of people I speak with in sales, where they're kind of better or more skilled guys in the space, earning quite a lot of money. It's always the same story. They're like, I got into this because I wanted to earn 10K a month. And then I earned 10K a month and I was like, I felt the same. And it was the same for me, man. I've been working to get to 10,000 a month for 5 years, doing, all sorts of bullshit and jobs that would never happen in. And then I finally did it. And I was like, holy shit, I've done it. Why don't I feel any different? What's going on? And it's something that I relate a lot to games. If anyone sort of plays computer games, right? The game is only fun when you've still got shit to do. If you've got fucking missions to complete, or you've got some boss you need to go kill, that's the fun shit, right? It's the anticipation of doing it. The second you've done it, whenever you complete a game, you stop playing the fucking game. It's boring, And that, what you said about that pursuit of happiness, I really couldn't agree more, because that's really where the fun is, And I think for me, and probably a lot of people in this space, falling in love with the game is really what's helped them level up, because then you're not so focused on like an outcome. You know, I need this so that I can feel good about myself. What you're then focused on is, okay, cool. Well, here's how today went. All right. Where did I go wrong? How can I improve? Like, what can I do better? And like, that's the fun shit. Because over time, like sports, for example, right? Sports, they become more fun the better you get at them. Like if you're fucking sick at playing, I don't know, hockey or American football or whatever, when you first started, you were probably shit. And there was times where you're like, oh God, this is awful. I hate it. But then one day it clicks and you're like, oh my God, yeah, I'm doing all this shit. Like, and it just becomes so much more fun because you have that unconscious competence and you're just fine tuning things as you move, right? 100%. So I wanted to ask, buddy, like from your perspective, like you've obviously coached a lot of people, right? What would you say are some of like the kind of the biggest, I guess, challenges that people are having right now from your side when it comes to sort of getting in this space in terms of they're setting expectations and maybe setting themselves up for failure?
Yeah, I think that's a big one, is just expectations in general, right? Most people come here without knowing the industry. They come here through an ad and they're told certain things and they're given a goal, right? That's where most people come up with the 10K. They didn't think about it. They weren't like, okay, I've done the budget and 10K would allow me to do these things. They just heard that there was access to 10K opportunities here. So that's what they've become, right? So the expectation on earning potential and time it takes, I think sets people up from a deficit early on. There's no way that you can set that everybody comes into this industry and makes the same amount of money in the same amount of time. It just logically makes no sense. So I think is coming in with the right expectation. That I just hosted a call on this last week where you have to decide early on if the juice is worth the squeeze. And if it is, then whether it takes 2 months or 6 months, it should still be worth the squeeze, because things generally take a little bit longer than we think they're going to, right? Yeah. So these people that are like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to try it for a month and see what happens, never going to make it, never going to make it. Yeah. Early on in my career, I decided that if it didn't go against my morals and it didn't hurt anyone maliciously, I was going to do it. It was worth it to me. Success was worth that squeeze. It was worth the frustration. It was worth the loss. It was worth the setbacks. It was worth the heartbreaks. Whatever it took, I was going to make it. So the people that are on the fence and like, I'm going to try it out and see what happens, never works out 100% of the time. Yeah. Right? It just can't. This is a heartbreaking industry. The volatility is kind of the bouncer in this industry that allows for the rest of us to make a lot of money, because most people never get over that wall. Yeah. They're waiting for it to be easy and to be handed to them. And this is a performance-based industry. And so the ability to perform is mandatory. That means the ability to have the mindset to overcome these challenges. So I think the big thing is making those decisions early on about what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not, right? If I got into an industry and it was morally corrupt, you know, I'm not going to change my morals for success, but everything else is on the table. Yeah. But I think people, every time they hit an adversity, they go back and they're like, oh, is this the thing that I should quit?
Shiny object syndrome, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's always just like, oh, I wasn't expecting it to be this hard. And somehow difficulty is the limiting factor of like, well, how difficult can it be before I give up? Right. So I think early on the decision making of what you want and what you're willing to give, because this is an economy. I know it's sold as some like weird industry that doesn't exist. Remote sales. It's been happening forever. Sure. They changed the name so that they can sell the same training, but put a different name on it. But this is remote sales. It operates in an economy. Every economy has an exchange, meaning if I have things that I want, I have to exchange something that I can give. That's it. So having those conversations early on, I think, is really important. And then beyond that, I think it comes down to 3 things. It's mindset, it's skill set, and strategy. That's where we're seeing people struggle. And the answer in our industry is always skill set. You ask anybody, the answer is always learn to sell better, learn to sell better. But in talking to the people in this industry, that's not where they're struggling. That's not where they're struggling. A lot of people are going through the same training, and a small percentage of them are succeeding. The rest are struggling. So what is it, right? And I think it comes down to the wrong strategy, and the wrong mindset. So that's where
I couldn't agree more with that, mate. Well, I think it's a big thing as well. Like whenever you're going to learn a skill set, you have to have the right mindset to learn the skill set, right? Like even if you spend fucking 50 grand on courses, if you're not doing the shit that everyone else is doing who is successful at it, you're not going to be successful. And, you know, sales, I think is one of the best industries in the world because your earning potential is almost unlimited. But if you're bad at it and you're not taking it seriously, you're sort of playing sales. But like a lot of people do, like you said, you know, they try sales, right, for like 3 months or something. And they're like, oh, this isn't for me. There's someone else in your circle, like, you know, you, like me, where this is what we fucking do. You know, just like the pro athlete, they go to the fucking gym, they train, they do every single thing necessary to be successful. And then some other fucking dude is, you know, going out, sniffing coke, banging hookers and wasting time and not training. They're going to get outperformed every single time, you know? Obviously, you know, a bit of an extreme example, but the point stands. Sales is one of the only industries where your skill set, your mindset, your determination is a direct reflection of how much you're going to get paid. Any other industry, you're a salary. You could not work hard for 2 weeks and then work hard at the end of the month, and that's fine. You can't fucking do that in sales. Every day you start again from the same fucking point and you've got to perform. And I think a lot of people, they don't have that expectation coming into it. They're just like, oh yeah, you just talk with people, you know, you give them a product and then you make money. It's easy. Very much incorrect, right? But to your point, sort of improving people's mindset, it's always one of these kind of ambiguous terms because like some people don't believe in mindset, some people do, some people, like you said, it's just, yeah, just skill set. And, you know, on a team training this morning, actually, we talked a bit about this. It's somewhat similar to the gym. If you go to the gym and you do all of these weights, but you're doing it wrong, you know, you're doing lat pull downs, you're fucking swinging like this, or, you know, you're doing bench press and your elbows are up here. Doesn't matter how good you get at that, you're still doing it wrong. And you're not going to get the same amount of results as if you did it the correct way. So the other point I wanted to ask you about, man, is like, for someone getting into the sales world, what would be the expectations that you would say to them? Hey, you need to set this expectation coming into this industry because this is the reality of it. Sort of like to weed people out who might be a bit on the fence almost.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of go against the grain. I think there's enough. I try and act as a balance in this industry. So I think there's enough people that are pitching the savagery of like come in and just hard work and determination. I think that's an aspect of it. But I've kind of taken the other side of you get paid based on service. So I've found that there's really only two mindsets that you need to be successful in this industry. And that's a growth mindset, knowing that you can always get better. If you're not happy with the results, you can improve. You can always improve. And then two, a service mindset. A lot of people come in and it's okay to have desires. We all have them. I come in, I think I want to make 10K. I want this job. I want this. I want that. But that has to change really quickly. I see a lot of people's communication when they come into this industry based on their own selfish desires. Now, there's nothing wrong with having selfish desires. We all have them, right? Selfish kind of gets a bad term, right? But all we have to do is spin that. Again, back to the economy, is understanding that I eat the best when I eat last. So if I get you what you want and I get the business owner what they want and I get the prospect what they want, I never even have to worry about what I want. It comes as an automatic response. So if I look at my bank account today and I don't like the number that shows up, it shouldn't be, I need. It should be, okay, this is a direct reflection of my service and my perceived value to the marketplace. If I want that number to change, which is a result, I need to be more valuable to the marketplace. I need to be more valuable to valuable people, plain and simple.
Let's talk about that for a second, man. Like in terms of sort of becoming more valuable and being better at servicing people. Because I feel like that could be misinterpreted by some. Like some people might view service as like just, you know, give the prospect what they want. You know, like if they come in the call and they're saying like, just get to the point, and they just get to the point, right? That's being nice. It's not being kind. So when you say about service and sort of increasing value, like, I guess, how would one go about doing that?
Yeah, I think it takes a level of observation. And again, getting out of the mindset of I want. Like the only people that can really say I want are prospects. Yeah. And so a lot of closers are wondering why everybody's trying to sell them. It's because all their communication is around I want. So that looks like a prospect. The only people that can come and say, I want this and that are the ones that are willing to pay for it. Right. So all we have to do is look around. And I think really the way of service is to look for problems. When I hear a problem, a challenge, a frustration, I think opportunity. Right. So it's not the thing, like I have a lot of people that come to me and they tell me their desires, but I give them what they need, not what they think they want. Right. So what I'm looking to do is really solve problems. And so in our industry, it's very simple. Right, is the problem of a business owner wanting more revenue. I can help them with that. The prospect wants a solution. I can help them with that. Those are problems that are exchanged for currency. That's what I'm trying to get involved in. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking, and this goes into my networking, it goes into sales, it goes into everything that I do, is each day I'm looking at who can I serve and what is going to make the impact, the transformation, the change. That's what I'm really committed to, not the feelings or not what they think. I have to be able to even say, what is the impact here? What is the result they're looking for? And how can I get involved in that?
Yeah, I do agree with it as well. Like at the end of the day, sales, it's not even about the product, right? It's about getting people their desired outcome. You know, like for me, if someone says, all right, cool, you can make $1 million in 6 months, you can do it this way or this way, you don't have to put any time in. I don't give a fuck which way I choose, right? As long as I get the outcome. That's the thing I care about. And I think a lot of people in sales, especially when you're new, they just focus on like, this is the product, this is what it does, these are the benefits, this is why you should like it. Kind of like the old school sales, you know, from like 1989. But I think like most people who are very good in this industry, all that they're focused on is getting the prospect their desired outcome, right? And like, if your product or service can do that, then amazing. And if it can't, don't fucking sell them into it. Just say, look, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't think this is a fit for you because of what you said about X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C. I do, however, have a friend that I can refer you over to or whatever it might be. Sorry, we can't help. They get sort of, what's it called? Commission breath, right? They're there because they want to make money. Yeah, exactly, right? It's super common. And so in terms of sort of what you're doing then, like you're coaching, is it setters and closers or just focusing on closers at the moment?
Everybody.
Nice. Awesome, then. So then I guess in terms of sort of like becoming a top 1% closer, right? From your experience coaching as many as you have, what would you say is kind of the big difference between the top 1% and everyone else? Like, what are they doing differently? Not necessarily in terms of like mindset and, you know, providing value and et cetera, like what we spoke about. But if we look at it on like a day-to-day perspective of like their actions and what they're actually doing, what would you kind of say are some of those big differences? Because it's something I've seen throughout my time is like, they know the same shit as you, right? They have all the same processes, same framework, same objection handling, same everything. But for some reason, they're earning 10 times as much as you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the top 1% seems to be a big obsession as of recently. And a lot of people use it in their marketing. For me, I'm looking at the statistics because, you know, we look around the industry and we follow what the top 1% says about what the top 1% said. But a lot of the times the top 1% wants to sell you the thing that got them to the top 1%. So honestly, like the biggest thing in the top 1% is they sell the other 99%. That's really it. When you look at it.
Well, let's look at it from a commission perspective then, right? Like the closers are earning $50,000 a month versus the closer earning $5,000 a month.
It's very simple. No matter what people say, the statistics usually will tell you the actual truth behind it, right? Take the human bias and take what they need you to believe out. And what you're left is with the stats. And so people will say this framework or that framework will teach you the top 1%. It's bullshit, right? The statistics show, they've done studies on it. The top 5 to 10, forget the 1%, right? Because that leaves 99% out. The top 5 to 10% do not follow one methodology. They do not have one framework. Yeah. They believe in situational selling, and they've studied it. They've listened to the calls. They use a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and they adapt to the situation and the individual. Because every framework, I don't care who's created it, has limitations. Frameworks are meant to work most of the time with most of the people to give a broad sense that you're doing well, right? But
not building up your emotional intelligence, right?
It's about knowing what to say and when to say, so most of the time you don't lose the easy deals.
Yeah.
That's not going to get you to the 1%. That's going to get you started, and it's going to give you that false sense of confidence that you know how to handle every situation. But repetition is really going to get you that breadth and understanding kind of if sales is more like treated like a mixed martial arts, it's not one individual training that's going to get you there. Mm-hmm. It's understanding different experiences and being able to understand what's happening behind the scenes, which is communication and influence. There is a decision to be made. If you don't understand the psychology of decision-making, the psychology of influence, human bias, right? Mm-hmm. Then there's no way to adjust. You're only limited to the tools that you've had in these frameworks, and every one of them is limited. So I will say that is one aspect, is being able to draw off of experiences and different methodologies and kind of blend to be able to be situational. Mm. I would say there's 2 character traits, and Harvard did a study on this. You know, they were wondering why everybody goes through the same training and doesn't get the same results. And so they started looking into the indicators of what makes a top performer. Mm-hmm. What are the true indicators? Like what can we look for? Because companies are spending millions of dollars on training, right? Especially in corporate, and huge turnover and huge discrepancies. Mm-hmm. But everybody's going through the same training. So what is it? And what they found is the 2 indicators are empathy and drive over everything else. And if someone has low drive or low empathy, what they found is no matter how much training they go through or how much experience they gain, they're limited. They cannot become a top performer. So that goes against everything that's being said in our industry.
Can I touch on that piece real quick, man? Because it really resonates with me personally, because like before I got into sales, like I was like semi-autistic. I still am in some aspects, right? Like I kind of struggle in certain situations for some reasons. It's very odd. It's like a really light level of autism, let's say, right? But what I basically did is I knew that was a weakness of mine. Like I just didn't understand why, you know, certain things made people happy, sad, or I couldn't pick up on the triggers when, you know, someone was feeling a certain way or they're saying one thing, but they meant something else. And that's when I was earning, you know, like $2,000 a month, right? So then what I did is I was like, right, this is a fucking weakness of mine. I suck at reading emotions. And then I paid for fucking loads of training on it. And then what happened is I started earning 10, 20, 30,000 a month, right? And so exactly what you just said there, I have to say, like, it's, for me personally, has been a huge, huge benefit, is just understanding how to empathize with people. Because if people feel understood, they're going to open up to you, right? Versus you just being the hardcore salespersons, just fucking smashing their face into the ground with logic. There's no understanding. You know, it's a human to human conversation. It's not just, you know, they're a fucking object that you got to like smash through the other side. Yeah. So it really resonated with me in terms of what you were saying about empathy. Because I would also say, like, when I listen to sales calls, because I get so many applications every day, the closers who are really good, very good at empathizing, right? You know, someone's struggling with something, they empathize. If someone's, you know, they're really happy about something, like, you know, they'll give them a compliment, whatever the fuck it is. Yeah. And I think, like I mentioned about having that emotional intelligence and emotional flexibility to where you can pick up on these little cues. Like a coach of mine, one thing that he said to me is, and this was really life-changing, is like, when you're in a sales call, what you should really be listening for is to listen for the emotion, right? Like, great, you know, the word, you'll hear the words, but listen for the emotion. Because when you're on that level, it's like a deeper level of understanding. Because sometimes people won't say what they mean, they won't mean what they say. Yeah. But if you're able to just cut through that fucking bullshit straight between the eyes and say, hey man, look, I got to be honest with you. And can I just, you know, can I share something with you? No hard feelings if I step on any toes. Yeah, sure. I don't think what you're saying is what you mean. Like, just be honest with me, man. When you said about this, like, what was that really doing to you? Like, personally though. And then they're like, fucking bang, you know, they open up because they're like, shit, this guy sees straight through me. Mm. Before that though, I would just take everything surface level, fucking whatever it was, 2-3K a month. So tell me a bit more about drive then, right? Like, in terms of drive, because for me, what drive means is having your back against the wall. Like, drive is not motivation. It's very, very different. Motivation is, I want X outcome, so I'm going to do everything I can to go and get it, right? You're pushing yourself towards it. But a drive for me is like you're being pushed towards it because there's something behind you that you're getting the fuck away from.
Yeah, I think the way I think about it, and you know, thinking about just the language of it, is drive is about forward movement, right? And so if you have, and that's why they paired these two together, I think they're a perfect hybrid. If you have empathy, but you have no drive, then you have to wait for people to come to you.
Yeah.
Right. It's your circle will be very comfortable with you. You'll have a lot of influence in the people that come face to face with you, but your circle will be small. So your impact will be small. You'll probably have a few people that you mean a lot to.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have drive, then you're not moving forward. You have no momentum. You don't have the ability to go out and have impact on more people. So the idea of pairing these two is I understand, I can put myself in the person's shoes. I have the empathy. I can feel what they feel, but I also want to pursue more people and more impact and be able to move forward so I can have more contact and have more impact. Right. So that's why they're paired together, is being able, especially on a sales call, if you have empathy with no drive, right? Oftentimes you're going to let people off the hook, and what it becomes is sympathy instead of empathy. There's a big difference. I'm not feeling bad for you. I'm feeling you're bad. That's a different story. Feeling bad for you means you're a victim. Feeling you're bad means I can empathize with you and I can now help you. So that's why they have
massive difference between that as well. Like, because I think a lot of people, they look at sympathy and empathy in a very similar light, but really it's completely different. Like you said, sympathy is like, oh my God, I can't believe you feel this way. Oh my, and you feel the emotion too, right? Empathy though is understanding the way they're feeling and why they're feeling it and helping them through that, right? It's a very, very different thing. So one thing I wanted to ask about in terms of drive, because I mean, we live in a society now that's kind of like pussified, if you will, right? There's a lot of people that are in their 30s, they're in their 40s, and they're still living with their parents, and it's not out of choice. They can't get a job or they don't try. Those people are, in my mind, very undriven. And a phrase that I love is like, what is it? Is tough times create, or hard times create tough men create easy times create weak men create tough times. And the cycle continues. And I feel like we're kind of at the end of one of those cycles. So for everyone who, if they're listening to this and they do feel like, they have motivation to go and earn money, but they don't have that internal drive, that internal passion and fire, like what have you personally found helpful to try and cultivate that in people where they're struggling to really find that inside themselves?
Yeah, having empathy for the situation as well. I think a lot of people, for me, I grew up thinking I was lazy. Right? I just thought that I was lazy because I didn't care about the things that people care about. And so I think a lot of people in that situation are misunderstood in that they bought into a story that's not theirs and they don't fit in with that story. Right? Where you find those people that were isolated or introverts, and you find stories where they found their purpose and their passion and everything changed. And so what I would say is, if the norm doesn't work for most of the people, right? And so if you're not into the things that most people are into, if you don't identify with the traits, or your heroes are not everybody else's heroes, find someone who shares similar values to you that is in a better position and model them. You don't have to have the generic success. You don't have to become Superman or Superwoman to be able to find a better place for you, right? Pursue your passions, pursue your interest, find out how to make the traits that you find valuable. Like, look at the people that you respect and find that gap and figure out what that is. But there's many different paths. It doesn't have to be like, you have to be an alpha male to succeed, right? It's being able to find what works for you and figure out what it is you really want. Maybe it's you want to be the best husband or wife, or you want to be able to stay home with your kids, so you need passive income for that. Like, figure out what lights you up first, because a lot of the people that are uninspired, they're uninspired by being told what they're supposed to be, and they're so far off from that they just feel like, well, whatever I do, if I do that, I'm not going to be happy anyway, so I'm just going to do nothing. But I think it starts with finding what lights you up, right? Finding what it is, that vision again, that works for you and no one else. You're the only one that has to live your life at the end of the day, right? And so we grow up and we get conditioned by our parents and by education system, and none of those things fit. And so what I would say is, get into a place where you're just exploring. You're just looking for people and information and ideas, and just gravitate towards the people who you associate with that are doing better than you, that you look up to, and find out what the principles of what has led them to be where they are.
Yeah, I think that's huge, man, as well, because certainly from what I've seen in life, right, a lot of people everything they do in their life is they're chasing goals that aren't really theirs. It's, X person on Instagram has this, so I want this, or X person on Instagram looks like this, so I want to look like this. And it's all external things that they're then judging, well, because other people have this and because other people want this, now I want it too. And for me, at least in my life, the times I was most unfulfilled, most unhappy, most undriven is when I was using other people's goals as my own, right? The 10K a month thing, right? Yeah. And so what you kind of find over time is for me at least, what I think life is about is finding ways where you, right? And this is different for every fucking person you talk to, where you as a person can feel love, happiness, joy, and fulfillment. If that doesn't necessarily mean you got to earn $20 million a year, right? It could be fucking you earn 15,000. It doesn't matter. As long as you're in a state where you're happy, you feel joy, love, and fulfillment, you're successful as fuck. Because there's billionaires out there who are on the verge of committing suicide because they hate their life. And they've got everything on paper that most people want.
Yeah, I think that's an important note because, when we get people transitioning into this industry, and we get people that came out of another program and they're 6 months in and they're struggling. And I think just by sitting down and re-examining and saying let's take the generic goals off, right? Because some people will come in and they'll tell me, I want to work in the niche that makes the most money. Or they'll ask that question, what niche?
Of course they do, right?
I'm like, well, the one that you have a passion for. And so what we go through is people, problems, and passion, right? That's kind of how we select the niche. And so being able to find and identify the problems that are urgent and important, because that's what people pay for, right? Considering what people, if you're going to be spending, 5 to 8 hours a day talking to specific people, who do you want to help? Who do you want to talk to? Who are you interested in? For me, I resonate with the 9-to-5ers that are looking for more. Right. So I started in e-commerce, biz ops. I like talking. Those are my people. I like helping them. I had that moment of I hate my corporate job. I want to transition. So I know I could have sold fitness. I could have sold health. I could have sold personal development, but I wanted to focus on conversations that I get excited about. And when I'm excited about them, all of a sudden I'm more passionate. I'm more purpose driven. I'm beyond just the sales call. And then obviously the passion, I do a litmus test of you should choose the niche or the industry or the career based on after a long day, would you still be interested in a half hour or an hour reading in your industry, listening to a podcast, watching videos? If not, it's probably not for you because you're only just work to make that money. So I think career choice and choosing the right job, which, back to the 1%, I think that's a big thing that gets left out often is you won't be top 1%, top 5%, top 10%, top 20% if you don't nail offer selection 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So being able to blend, is this a proven offer with, is this something that I'm passionate about selling? Doesn't mean you have to be an expert in that field, but are you passionate about helping the people who you're going to be talking to make that transformation?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, man. You are absolutely right. Because, if you're selling something and you have no passion for it, you don't really give a fuck and you're there to earn money, someone else in your company who's super passionate about it, loves talking to these people, and then guess what's going to happen, right? Their commission is going to go through the roof and then yours is going to just do this. Right? And just stay like that the entire time. You'll be like, well, why aren't I earning more money? It's because you don't give a fuck. You don't give a shit about the people you're talking to. You're just there to collect a check. And it's a big thing with us as well. Whenever we place closers, I always want to find out, what are you really passionate about? What do you enjoy? Who do you enjoy talking with? Because then I know that if we find them an offer that is that, they're going to fucking crush it. Rather than putting someone, they want to sell a trading offer and that's really what they love because, it's what they do and da-da-da. And then we put them on a fitness offer, they're going to eat shit, right? Because it's two different worlds and also you don't care. And I think that, like you said, about having that sort of passion for it is just so, so key. And it does get left out all the time. People just think, I'll just get on any offer, it's high ticket, it's got good commission, I'm going to smash it. And they do it and they don't do very well. even though the opportunity's there, because there's no, fucking oomph behind what they're saying. They're here to collect a check at the end of the day. But also that tacks on to, having and building more drive and getting more fulfillment. Because if you're in an offer that you really enjoy, you like the people you speak with, you like what you sell, it makes a difference, and you'd fucking sell it to your family, your friends, and everyone you know, you're gonna kill it. You're gonna do everything you can to make sure you kill it, because you're grateful for what you have. You find fulfillment in every call. You enjoy talking with the people you speak with, versus the person who's just there to make money. It's a very different level of sort of like, tapping into empathy, mindset, drive. It all sort of, it all collects based on that. Choosing the right fucking offer for what you're interested in, not what you think you should sell because it will make you money, right? Like for me, I love B2B. I love speaking with, investors, people who run businesses, because that's the sort of person that I am. Like I fucking love investing. I invest shitloads of money into myself, all sorts of stuff all the time. And I love understanding their mindsets, Like I spoke with a guy last week who he owns like 60% of the company that's worth $1 billion. Amazing call, right? And he was a great guy, really, really lovely. But someone who's they're just there to earn money. They're not going to connect. They're not going to have a real conversation and speak to them as person to person. They'll just fly through the script and then they won't make anything.
Yeah, so, I think. Oh, God, sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right, man. You crack on.
I was just going to say, I think that has to. I'm trying to think of everybody listening, and I think that has to be paired with something really important. In that, I see people on the other side who are just like, I really like the business owner and I really like the offer. So that's why I took the job. And then the numbers aren't there. There's no proven process. The marketing's not there. And, just like in relationships, because that's what it is. It's a partnership. It's a relationship. And just in relationships, love is not enough, right? If I meet someone, I fall in love and they want 8 kids and to live in Wisconsin, we're going to have issues. Right? Because there's not enough alignment there of what I want, what they want. There's not that synergy, right? So I think that's an important part to start, is like, what am I passionate in helping people with? What do I want to learn more? What do I want to be involved in? Mm-hmm. And then going through the proof of concept, through, because what I say that's really one of the biggest issues I see is taking the wrong offer and then staying in the offer too long. Yeah. Right. And what I'll tell people, especially when they come to me and they'll say, "Oh, I love it, and I really believe in this person, and I know they're going to be great," and I say, "Okay, then take 5 hours of your time each week and volunteer, because that's what you're doing. Like, if the money is not there, you're volunteering your time for the business owner. So go work with a successful business, go work for a proven model, learn some concepts, and then take an hour or 2 each week and help that business owner." If that's what you really care about, right, and that's what your indicators of like, I really want to help this person, then volunteer, right? Help them on the side, work part-time, work 5 hours a week, helping them while they develop, but that's not your income goal. That's not your business. That's not a smart business move. So I think it has to be paired with strong offer selection and being able to ask tough questions early on. Through UCM, we have a very strict process. I go through every offer with every student to make sure that it fits with what they want, because on the outside, they all look the same, right? As you know, every offer is a 6-figure offer until you get inside. Yeah.
It's always 10K a month minimum, 20K OTE, whatever the fuck it is.
Every closer is a 7-figure closer until they get on the phone. So what I've realized in going through my own career and through recruiting and now through UCM is we have to be able to pull the curtain back. We have to be able to say, okay, I need to make this much money. I want to make this much, but I need to make this much. So I have to fall somewhere in that gap. Where is the proof that I can make that in the business that I'm about to ask to partner with? If I don't have proof, then I am an experiment. And how many experiments can I go through? Most closers go through 3, 4, 5 before they land in the right spot. Mm-hmm. We try to eliminate that by asking the right questions and also learning how to identify and research top companies. If you know what a top company looks like, if you know where to find them, if you know the indicators and kind of the ingredients and recipe of a 7, 8, or 9-figure business owner, all of a sudden you start to see that and you start to see the gap between the best and everybody else. And then you can target, because for most people out there, like, take 85% of this industry and put it aside. You have to dial into that 15%. There's only about 15% of opportunities that will actually be able to facilitate what you want out of this industry. And most people are looking at who's hiring instead of targeting who are the top 20, 30, 40, 50 people in my niche and how can I get involved with them? How can I build those relationships?
Yeah, no, that's massive, man, as well. Because like, I feel like there's new offers starting every fucking day. And just because it's an offer that sounds great on paper, it doesn't have a proven concept behind it. And it doesn't matter how much of a good salesperson you are, you can't outperform a bad offer ever.
No.
It's never going to happen. And
you're not going to make more than a CEO, that's for sure.
No way. But like, and that's a massive thing. It's understanding, right? What's the passion? Where does my drive come from? And then how can I find that offer that's going to actually enable me to earn what I need, but also potentially what I want? And obviously, no one's going to be able to sort of like magically figure it out. And that's obviously where people like you come in, right? You kind of help with the offer selection process and sort of what people are looking for, why they're looking for it, and then trying to sort of, I guess, compress time instead of going through 3, 4, 5 offers that are just like trials and you're sort of volunteering your time. Go straight for the one that's going to get you the money and all the stuff that you're looking for out of that offer without having to go through all the bullshit and trial and error, right? Because most people they'll be in an offer, they'll last like, a month and they'll be like, oh, it's a total waste of time, this, that, and the other, they'll complain about it. It's your fault though, man. You put yourself in that position. But again, I think it's amazing what you're sort of doing for people, man, like really sort of offering a real service to them, because there's so many offers out there and there's so much in this space. It's very difficult to like pick through the weeds to actually find like the nice little flower. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think, so many people are being told that the answer to everything is more sales training. I have people that come to me and they were in a bad position and they heard the ad, more sales training. So they bought that and they didn't make any more money. And then they buy the upsell and then they find a new coach and they buy their training and change their framework and they still don't make more money, right? Because again, that offer selection or something in the mindset. So what we look at, like I'm building out UCM 3.0, it's putting the finishing touches on it now. And I'm listing out like through my 7 years experience in this space and my 2 years as a mentor and feedback every single day, talking to students, talking to people in my community, right? I've come up with, I stopped counting at 130. There's 130 things that get in people's way that prevent them from being successful. So the idea that sales training is the one size fits all improvement, you want to make more money, sales training, you break your leg, buy sales training, like it's not the answer to everything, right? If you're in a position where you feel like, hey, there's people in my role making 60K a month and I'm making 10K, maybe sales training, maybe sales skills, right? But like you said, I invested in things that teach me empathy. So I'm not against developing sales skills. I think it's an important part of, the trifecta, but I would much rather have people select the right offer, get in, and then figure out what's missing. I'm really struggling to build authority, or I'm really struggling with this, or I'm struggling to understand this. And then you can pinpoint what you need help with, and you can find someone that helps you with that.
Yeah.
When I was developing in sales, I realized if I take the same sales training as everybody else, I'm going to be in that pack. But what I started to do was break down the elements of what sales is a result. Most people are so obsessed with the result, but if you want the result to change, you have to be able to go into the equation. And so I realized that a sale is a decision. So I need to understand that, right? And the communication of sending and receiving information and my ability to facilitate that decision comes down to influence. And so I left all the sales training aside and I started diving into human psychology, right? Decision-making, human bias, right? Self-sabotage, fear of failure, all the things, because I know that buyers buy and non-buyers shouldn't buy. So my obsession became in the middle, the people who should buy, who could buy, who don't buy. That's really the only area I need to improve on. Yeah. And so I started realizing, okay, if these people should buy and don't, that's a suboptimal decision. So I asked myself, why do people make suboptimal decisions? And I found tons of information. Instead of just learning what to say and how to respond in the tactics, I started to understand why I make bad decisions, why you make bad decisions. And the more I learned about my own bad decisions, the more influence I had in helping people make better decisions. Because again, being able to humanize the prospect is saying, I make these bad decisions. Sales is so hypocritical sometimes in that the salesperson expects people to come in and make the right decision 100% of the time. And that's just not realistic, because if you look in the mirror, you're not looking at 100% optimal decisions, right? So understanding yourself and being able to pinpoint what it is that adds up to more sales, I feel like you can get a lot more skill development rather than just a script.
I think based on what you're saying there, man, like it kind of sounds like the key you're alluding to is understanding why, like not just what you're saying, right? But like, why are you saying all this shit? Like, what is it that this actually does? You know, if you put a reframe into a sales objection handle or partway through your script, why are you saying that? You know, because like, if you're good at parroting people, it doesn't make you good at sales. You know, you have to be able to understand it, like we talked about, have that situational awareness, the emotional intelligence to know the right thing to say to that person to help influence them to make a good decision for themselves. Not about what you want, it's about what they need. Not necessarily what they think they want. It's about what they need. And it's a very interesting thing, because a lot of people, they think they want something, but what they want isn't actually what they need. And relating to back what I said earlier, right? Like a lot of the time people are saying, I know, I want this, I want this, I want this. Cool, man. Well, like, you know, what do you feel like you actually need in order to, you know, feel happy, fulfilled, whatever the fuck it is? And they're like, oh, well, you know, really, I guess I'm going to need this. And then there's an incongruence. And so it's about sort of helping to reframe people, but understanding why you're doing that in the first place. Because, you know, something that I see with a lot of salespeople, especially new, getting into it, like I was like this, I was trying to be like the person that I was getting the